Hi, everybody. Welcome to Heal Yourself Naturally. My name is Nicole Dromi. I'm joined by Hava and Sarah Woods Kender. It is so lovely to be back. We took a nice break for the Jewish holidays and we are back with a vengeance and we are happy to be here. What a wonderful time to be alive. Lots of things happening in the world. And we're really excited today to share with you a lot of knowledge that we have been um, coming up with on our coming episodes. Today's episode is going to be called creating your own natural remedies at home, and our lovely healers will be teaching you specifically about one plant because we wanted to make it easy on people, and we have chosen rosemary. Rosemary is a plant that many people grow at home or they find out in their yard, or that they can find out in their yard, or something that they can easily get in a grocery store, whether it be fresh or dried. And so we want to show you how easy it is to make a remedy from something as simple as rosemary and all of its beautiful qualities, what you can do with it. And we're excited to get the ball rolling. Today's class is a lot of hands-on things, and so we don't want to waste any time. Let's start with Sarah. Sarah has a couple of things she's going to be showing us, and I just want to start with one at a time. And then we'll bounce back and forth between you and Hava so that we can, we can all get things going. So Sarah, what is the first thing you'll be showing us today?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, rosemary is the plant that we picked today because it's easy to find. And we really want to bridge the gap between the intimidation that herbal medicine can bring to some people, because there's a lot of moving parts and pieces, and that's why I always suggest people find a local herbalist that you can bounce ideas off of and talk to in regards to herbal medicine. Podcasts are great, right? So we do this so it actually prompts you to do a little bit more learning on your own, and you can also do more learning with us individually as well. But rosemary comes in really nicely for us in many different ways. And the way I use it in my practice, for memory, for thyroid, and it really helps bring blood to the surface of the skin. So what I'm going to show you today is how to make a tea, and it's a basic medicinal tea. It's very simple. And I'm also going to show you how we make a typical extraction, an alcohol extraction. They're called tinctures. And today I have my little jars here and I'm gonna show you. And then I'm gonna show you the process of how to make a glycerate. So I'm gonna do three different preparations. Hava's gonna do a few more to show you different ways that you can use rosemary to help improve memory, help improve your thyroid, help bring blood to the surface of your skin, help with any infections that you might have. Rosemary is very antimicrobial, like many of the aromatics. Thyme, lavender, a lot of things that you have in your cabinet. You open up those jars and you smell. The first thing we always do is smell them, so we get all those volatile oils, and we can capture that in tea and extract or in the glycerites. So today, the making a tea is super easy, right?
Right.
Right. And I'm gonna make it
In theory, proper tea is,
theory. And if,
yeah.
especially if you have a teacup, no, I'm going to use a jar. So, so many people have teacups, and many people know what an infuser is. So you can put your tea in the little tea ball. But today I'm going to show you how to make like a typical medicinal tea. And this is how I instruct a lot of my customers and clients in order to make a medicinal tea. It's slightly different than a beverage tea, like a nice Earl Grey or a red tea that you might like just to taste. And usually it steeps for, at least 20 minutes to overnight. But I'm going to show you the basic process to make it in a ball jar. You don't need like fancy equipment. I mean, I have cups with infusers and all that jazz, but all you need is a ball jar. And of course, you need the cap on the ball jar, and you need your hands. Simple stuff, right?
Right.
So this is my rosemary. And when you make a medicinal tea, you typically want to add at least a teaspoon per cup. And sometimes it can be more, it depends on what you're doing it for. So rather than concentrate on dosages and all that jazz, I'm going to just concentrate on making a simple tea, and how I instruct it to my customers and clients is like a fat tablespoon. So we take the fat tablespoon of rosemary just like this, and we stick it in the jar, just like that. And any extras goes in. And then you have your basically your nearly boiling water. And I say nearly boiling because if it's too hot, you could kind of zap some of the good stuff out of the plants. You want it warm. We do cold water infusions as well, but today we're doing a hot infusion, and that's usually what we do with teas. And so I've got my fat tablespoon in there. And also, it's nearly boiling too, because a lot of people like to use honey in their tea. And
Mhm.
if your honey is too hot, you also zap all the good stuff out of there. So honey is a live product. It has many enzymes and lots of vitamins in there. And if you add too much heat to it, you can kind of reduce the good qualities of it. So nearly boiling water, and everybody kind of knows their kettle. When it starts to hiss, we turn it off before it whistles.
Right.
And this is an electric kettle. And I've got it nice and hot. And so I'm just gonna pour it right into my ball jar, just like this. You can see that. I go all the way to the top.
So this is more than a cup.
This is gonna be a typical like medicinal dose of tea. And I usually have
No
people
question, because you said for each tablespoon, a cup of water.
so it's a teaspoon per cup of water.
Teaspoon, sorry.
And so
Okay.
I've done a fat tablespoon, which is
Exactly. Okay.
basically 4 teaspoons
Okay.
of
So 4 cups of water.
rosemary in my quart-sized jar.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna cap it. I don't have the caps in here. I can pretend like I do. And I'm gonna cap it loosely because we want the steam to kind of come out. So you don't want to build a lot of pressure in there. And then I just have people let it sit on your counter in your kitchen overnight. It doesn't go bad and it gets really strong. And then you're sipping it throughout the day. A lot of typical tea blends will have more than one herb. But today, obviously, we're just gonna demonstrate with just one herb.
And if you want to drink it warm and sweeten it, can you pour some more hot, like boiling water in there in your cup that you're separately putting with honey?
Yeah, so you can add honey at any stage. Usually, when it's warm, it's the best.
Okay.
I do. I actually do dissuade people from sweetening their teas.
Mm-hmm.
Just because sugar, it's still sugar, and
Hmm.
um, you know, if you can really
Avoid it.
get through your tea without sugar or honey or whatever, it's best. But you can add the honey at any point in time. Obviously, it's better when it's warm. Um, but again, a typical blend of tea is, 7 to 8 herbs, and then we're custom formulating for people. But so as you can see, the color of the water is already starting to turn.
Hmm.
So this is called a water infusion. And we infuse herbs with lots of different things. Obviously, water is one of the main ones. And then we're letting this steep overnight, and then we're straining the herb out. You can gently reheat it on the stove if you prefer, add a little sweetener to it. Then you can add sweetener to it right now and let it steep with the honey in it. It doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
And then in the morning, we're taking the cap off, we're straining it. You can use a typical sieve strainer. But you'll notice that when you make tea this way, the herb is all going to sink to the bottom. Once it
Right.
gets saturated with water, it will sink to the bottom, and you can just like decant it, and you don't even need a strainer. So I
Hmm.
think ball jars are the best way to make tea. Of course, I have a teacup with a strainer. You don't need any of that. Um, and it's the best way to do it. And then sip it throughout the day. And I usually have people try to finish their tea before like 3 or 4. That way you're not up all night peeing, because that can be a problem for some people.
Right.
And also, if there are herbs in the formulation, that would keep you awake, we want you to finish before 3. But of course, rosemary doesn't keep you awake. It actually increases the circulation of blood to the brain. And because it has rosmarinic acid in it, it's going to support thyroid function. So I usually use it for hypothyroid, so low thyroid function.
Mhm.
And I also like to use it for eye health because it increases the circulation all around the brain and the eyes. So anybody with, macular degeneration, glaucoma, whatever, or just basic eye health, it's a really nice one to use, as much as you can every day or every other day. But a typical dose is about a quart a day.
That's great.
So
Well,
do you
that
have any
was very
questions?
informative.
Want any clarity?
No, that was great. I cleared up. I mean, I cleared up everything I
You cleared
needed.
up your confusion.
Yeah, exactly. Which sometimes, my confusion is everybody's confusion. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, thank you very much for that, because sometimes people get dissuaded from drinking tea because they have to sit and wait for it to prepare. But if you want to enjoy tea tomorrow, you could just make it a day in advance, and the longer it sits, the better, right? So that's
Correct.
great. Thank you for clearing that up. And as long as it's in a jar, it's much easier too.
Yeah,
Set it
and you can
aside. Don't
actually
worry.
just take it with you. The herbal sink to the bottom, you can sip it that
Right.
way. Or if you want to just put it in a to-go coffee container,
Cup.
so
Yeah.
coffee or tea
Yeah.
tumbler, you could do that too. And
Mm-hmm.
just and it's already like it's probably hard to see,
I
but the
saw
herbs,
it.
see, it's
I
already the herbs are already
thinking.
sinking.
Yeah.
Boy, that's
And
pretty
when you're
cool looking.
making an herbal tea, you want to use dried herbs, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think that dried herbs lend more medicine than fresh herbs in
Okay.
tea because the idea is when you dry plant material, you're breaking the cell wall down, all the water's out of it. So the water in the tea doesn't have to compete with the water in the plant. It
That's right.
doesn't mean you can't make fresh herb teas, though. There's plenty of people that do that. I just think, you get more bang for your buck when it's dried.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay, great.
Yeah. So
It's
that's
a good
one herbal.
clarification.
Yeah, and that's one herbal preparation that you can do. Now, like you mentioned, not a lot of people like tea. They don't want to deal with tea. I have a lot of people that go, can I do something else besides tea? And I have customers that come in and they're already on a medicinal tea, and to add more tea to their life, it's like, they're juggling tea
Right.
balls and all this stuff. So we use extracts. Now, an extract is essentially a term that's used that you could apply I mean, this is technically an extract
Extract,
because
right.
we're
Mm-hmm.
extracting the plant material, but we
Mm-hmm.
call this an infusion. It's a water infusion.
Right.
And when I say extract, I mean alcohol extract. So the other word for that is tincture. Many people know it as a tincture. Uh, and so today I'm just going to show you the basic, what I consider the kitchen witch way to make a tincture, which is no math, which it really makes some people happy.
It does. It makes me happy.
And
I got confused with the teaspoon and the tablespoon right away.
right, it's
Right.
like of course, I teach my students the math way,
Right.
and it can be hard for some people, but once you get it, you get it.
Right.
But for simplistic reasons today, we're going to make just my kitchen witchery process of making an extract or a tincture.
Tincture, right.
And so this tincture I'd be using again for the same reasons, for brain health, for thyroid health. And what I'm going to do is take the dried plant material. Now you can make fresh plant material tinctures. We're not going to talk about that today because that is a slightly different process as far as alcohol, but you can do it. So if you have a fresh plant that you really want to make a tincture out of that is not poisonous or something, you're going to do the same steps. It's just you got to shove a lot more plant material in here
Okay.
because it'll be kind of weak because plants have, fresh plants have water. So this is my obviously dried rosemary, and all I'm going to do is take and I fill up my jar.
The entire jar.
I fill it all the way up.
Beautiful.
Can you see? All the
Mm-hmm.
way up, basically to the rim. And then I take my 100 proof ethyl alcohol. So this is something you could make, you know, it's kind of like vodka. This is actually straight ethyl alcohol or organic cane alcohol. It's like vodka. You could make a, you know, a drink with it if you really wanted to mix it with some, you know, blueberry juice and little mint and
Have you done
maybe some
that?
lemon, you know,
Have you?
you could do that.
Do
But
you
this is,
have to use ethyl alcohol? What if someone only has vodka at home or like a brandy or
that's
well
fine.
like yeah?
That's
Okay, so
fine.
any kind of alcohol.
Any kind of, I mean, because it's all ethyl alcohol. It's just
Right.
not, it's not
Not 100.
isopropyl alcohol that you
Yeah.
use topically. Just don't use that.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's a food safe extraction method.
Okay.
And I'm taking, and basically this is like 100 proof vodka. So it's
Yeah.
50%
Ugh.
alcohol. That's the
Just
only
the
math,
thought.
that's the only math I'm going to talk about. You want
Okay.
your alcohol to be at least 40 to 50%.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're really not going to extract a lot.
Okay.
Okay. So this is 50% alcohol, 50% water. Okay. And then all we do, I know this is like super difficult here, right? All we do is pour it in the jar all the way to the top. Boom. Can you see?
Yeah.
All the way to the top. And I didn't even spill any. And then we're going to steal the cap from the tea because I'm so prepared. And then we cap it. We give it a shake, shake.
Yep.
And we put it in the pantry. We label it. We're going to write rosemary. We're going to write the date. And after like 4 to 6 weeks, it'll be done. We leave it in your pantry. Don't put it in the sun. Don't put your teas in the sun. You can make sun tea, but that's not what this is. Sun zaps nutrition from the plants. So we don't do that.
So
Tinctures
tinctures have to be in like a cool, dark place, basically.
like that
Stored in
black
yeah.
hole that you see right here.
That's your tincture pantry.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something that people need to know. Just any kind of cool, dark place,
Yep.
at least 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
Can it be done before that or no?
I mean, it
Best to
can
leave it
be.
strain. Best to leave it to
It
infuse longer.
with 50% alcohol, it's best to leave it 4 to 6 weeks. If it were 95% alcohol, it would be done in a day. But
Okay,
it's got the water in there, so you might as well let it just kind of
sit.
hang out for a while.
Okay,
But
and after
label,
the 6 week, yeah, it's important to label the date,
label,
right?
label, label what it is and the date. And I even go so far as to say it's 50% alcohol.
You write down what it
You
is.
know, I
Yeah.
write down the percentage of alcohol just because there's some tinctures that are different that I do.
Yeah. And so after that, you strain it or you just strain the amount that you want.
So after that, I strain out the plant material and then I reserve the jar and keep it in my jar.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, get a nice sieve strainer. You can get cheesecloth and you can squeeze it out, get all that
Right.
out. And then you compost the plant material and you reserve the liquid, and that's your tincture. And then we would dose accordingly depending on what the problem is. But a typical for like, say, if you just want a little brain boost, you do like, I don't know, a half a teaspoon a day to a teaspoon a day.
Straight to the mouth or mixed with some liquid?
We always want to mix it with tepid water or even a little warm water.
Okay.
So, I never really suggest people do tinctures neat on the tongue or never under the tongue. And I
Okay.
think that that's kind of a thing for some reason. And we know that herbs and things, you know, medicine can go in sublingually, right? Under
Right.
your tongue. But that the alcohol can be really harsh on that tissue.
Yeah.
So if you want to, this is what I suggest people do. Put your dosage in a, you know, a typical cup with
Right.
with like a quarter cup of water, warm water, tepid water, and then you can drink it. You can swish it around in your mouth if you want to, and then you take it that way. And I also suggest people, for the most part, not to do tinctures on an empty stomach, just because some people have sensitive, you know, digestive process, and it can be, alcohol can be harsh, and unless that's what you're going for, you might get a little buzz in the morning, depending on how many tinctures you're
Now,
taking.
what's your theory about giving children tinctures?
I think it's fine.
Okay,
You're
I
giving,
do too. I just wanted to hear it from you.
yeah,
I want to put it out there.
yeah, you're giving, if you're doing over the counter cough syrup, you're giving your kid alcohol. So
Absolutely.
unless you have a non-alcohol brand, which is, I don't even know if that exists. It must, unless it's a homeopathic or something. I've given my kids tinctures since they were little, and kids, you're going to use a lot smaller of a dose.
Right.
So it's not that that little bit of alcohol is not going to
Especially
harm
when you're
them.
putting it in their water. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I've been giving my kids tinctures since before they were 1 year old. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I just wanted to put it out there so people aren't afraid. It's alcohol, but there's nothing wrong with putting it in their water, and it has a great healing properties. So we don't want to discourage people from using it.
Right. And so with that said, Nicole, unless you have another question.
No, I
With
don't.
that said, if you do have concerns about alcohol in children, there's another way that you can make an extract without alcohol, and that's with vegetable glycerin. Now, this is something that's not as easily obtainable as, vodka in the grocery store. I mean,
Right. This is
well,
something you'd have to order in
right. So this,
advance.
you
Right.
might find it in your health food store, but you could use the vegetable glycerin just like you use the alcohol.
Same thing. Just
So it's,
fill the jar up and then top it all off to the rim.
except with glycerin, you're gonna actually add in a little bit of water.
Oh, okay.
So
So
you
what's the
fill up your
ratio then?
jar about 60 to 70%, and then with the glycerin, and it would go up to here, and then the rest water. And glycerin is a pretty fine liquid to extract medicine. It's not as strong as alcohol, but if you wanted to do that, you could, and then it's a non-alcohol typed
And
medicine.
how long are you letting it infuse, and where?
Yeah, so it's the same amount of time.
Okay.
So we're filling up our jar with glycerin about 60 to 70%. Just eyeball it. The rest is just a nice filtered clean water that you
Okay.
would drink. And then you're going to cap it, shake it, and let it sit in your
4 to 6
pantry
weeks.
for 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
Um,
Beautiful.
yeah, and then you can strain the herb out, compost the herb, and then dose a little bit higher than you would an extract.
And
Just because,
glyceride doesn't have to be mixed with water. That you can put directly on in the mouth, right?
correct. It's sweeter,
Yeah.
and it's not as insulting to the palate for some people. Um, but
Especially with a tasty herb like rosemary.
right,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure,
I,
yeah,
I I honestly think that would be pretty delicious.
yeah. I think it would be okay.
Yeah.
Glycerin, it's a nice way to make medicine. I don't make a lot of them because Hava and I were talking about this the other day. It was like I always have trouble with the glycerites.
Mm.
But Hava was nice enough to show me how she makes them, and it makes sense to have like a line of glycerin based medicines for people who don't want to do alcohol, because it's not just
Right.
kids. It's some people who are alcoholics or just don't want to drink.
Right.
They don't want to do the alcohol. So it's nice to have options for people.
And I always suggest too for parents, if you don't know what it's going to taste like, put a little bit on your tongue first so you know what you're prepared for with your children. And
Yeah.
also don't lie to them and say, don't worry, it's going to taste good. Say it might not taste so great. Give it a try. If you don't like it, we can try to chase it down with some freshly squeezed orange juice or whatever. Some herbs you can't mix certain juices with afterwards. I know that, but that's a lesson for another time. But my point is honesty with your children so
Yeah,
that they're
sure.
not, so that they don't think, oh my God, they fooled me. And then it's,
Oh,
absolute
yeah, that's
hell.
terrible. And then they don't trust what.
And then they don't trust you. Exactly. So that's one thing that's really important is be completely honest, especially or if you're trying to give it to a loved one that may be an adult or whatever, always try it first, there's no harm in drinking rosemary tea on your own, even if you don't feel like you need it. All of us need that little bit of a brain boost, or a vision boost, whatever it may be.
Absolutely.
So yeah, thank you for sharing all of those
Yeah,
methods.
so those are my three ways you can prepare one herb. And at some point we're gonna find something you like.
Right.
And in
And
order
we've
to
had
get it
many
inside.
podcasts where you both have mentioned different herbal remedies, or combinations of herbs that you can use. So anybody wanting to look back on those and say, oh, that's what she meant by tincture of XYZ. Now I know how to make that tincture. Just, try things out. You may not get all the proportions right at first, but it's always good to test it on your own and put healing into your own hands. Obviously, we encourage anybody and everybody that watches our podcast to reach out to both you and Hava should they ever want any kind of guidance. And anybody that wants to find you both, your websites are sarasherbs.com and havawellness.com. I just wanted to mention it again so that people know where to reach out to you. And then if you are feeling a little bit discouraged and you don't want to try it out, you can find a lot of these remedies on their websites for sale. So let's go to you, Hava. Let's see what you have for Let's see what you have for
I
us
enjoy
today.
so much. I don't mind to sit on the side and just watch you. It's so beautiful, both of you. You're so sweet.
You're so great. Thanks
Well,
for being patient with us, but I know you have a lot to say as always.
Well, I also prepared few things for you, and thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing these beautiful ideas. And I also wanted to add for people who don't think when they look at the tea, they only understand, oh, I'm just gonna drink the tea, but they can also use the tea as a hair wash. Meaning, like
lovely.
after taking a bath or something, and as a final rinse, they can rinse it by using a rosemary tea. So not only using for that, and also it's good to clean your face with the herbs and specifically with rosemary because it will create oxygen, will create circulation. So that's another way to using it. So people will get more ideas. So now let me move my chair. So I'll bring my table.
Okay.
Show you things that I prepared.
So rosemary is good for health, hair health. So from what I understand or remember, it helps regenerate or rejuvenate the hair follicles. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
So it's good for hair growth, rosemary, right? Both drinking and rinsing and massaging in the scalp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
great.
This is the fresh rosemary. So before you saw rosemary that was dry, and Sarah shared rosemary that is dry, and this is a fresh rosemary, and that's how it looks. And it's actually the plant that I planted a year ago. I got a beautiful bunch from my farmers, and I received it as a present, and I used half of it, but I didn't know like I was thinking, what should I do more, and then I got an idea, why not just to plant it. So that's idea that if you go to the store and let's say you use half of it and you still have a little bit branch left to it, put it in the water in a small jar, and you'll see the roots will start coming out, and then plant it, and that way you're gonna have this beautiful amazing herb on hand at all times. So here, this is the fresh rosemary. Now let me show you what else we can do with rosemary. So besides obviously doing what Sarah showed us, which is an amazing tinctures, glycerides that you can use on a daily basis, herbal teas, there is a few more things. So today I will show you how to prepare a rosemary oil, which is infusion of a rosemary instead of alcohol And instead of glyceride, you can infuse this inside the oils. And you infuse this in a simple olive oil. You can obviously infuse in any other oils you have at home. There could be almond oil, coconut oil. Well, coconut oil, unless it's in a liquid form, any oil, jojoba oil, anything. But as usually we as an herbalist, we use the basic oils. So in this case, we're going to use olive oil. But I wanted to show you a different infusions of different herbs. Let's say this one is a mullein infusion. This one is eucalyptus. Look how dark the oil is, right? It's absolutely incredible. So now let me show you how you can prepare your oil, and then I'll teach you what you can do with it. So first of all, small jars. I am absolutely in love with the small jars.
Oh my God, I have those.
And I tell you why, because they're so easy to, exactly, they're the best. And they are so good. And especially people who are new to the world of herbalism or new to the world of healing, and they don't know. Start small. Don't go with the big jars. Don't go like this. Start small. Get used to it. Because what happens, and I found this a lot, people prepare and they're like, what the hell I should do with this? And then they look at it and they don't know what to do. So start with the small experiment. It's all about bringing this, I would say, bringing this, so it will be part of you. So you slowly get used to it. It will become part of your daily life. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the rosemary that's obviously is clean and washed very well. And we're going to cut this into the small pieces. Or you either can use your hands to crush the leaves, but you also can use the scissors. So it's up to you. You know, now it's such a beautiful smell. It's just incredible. Just
I can smell it from here.
Smell it. It's absolutely powerful.
One of my favorite things to smell. I planted a lot of them in my backyard because we only have like pots. But I've planted quite a few pots of them just because I love walking by it and smelling it. Obviously, I cook with it all the time, but just the fact that I can just walk by and be like hit with that woodsy, yummy fragrance.
So basically,
there's
this is
like
how
rosemary.
you chop them to the small pieces, and you want to kind of make sure that it's not really packed, but it's kind of loose. I would add a little bit more, let's say oil, but a little bit more, but you don't really need to stuff it. And now we're using here a fresh plant, so it's a little bit different when you use the dry and when you use the fresh, but it's kind of similar in the preparation. So basically you use the rosemary fresh, and then you add olive oil, and you want to make sure that you cover it very well, because if you're not going to cover it, what will happen, the oxygen will go in and will destroy the oil. It become rancid, smelly, bubbly. So that's not a good idea. So this is basically how it is. You want to make sure it's obviously all covered nicely. And now, because we're using a fresh herb, I do suggest in some cases to keep it, actually, the oils, I don't know, Sarah, but some oils, they like to be infused and get the power from the sun, because it will warm up the oils and will help to bring all the unique power that in the herb into the oil. There is one way of preparation, and another way, because we're using a fresh plant, you can actually put it in a warm water and kind of keep it in the warm water. And what will happen is that the heat will help to release all the power that are in the herbs, all the unique combinations that are in this powerful herb. Now, what should we do with this oil after it's ready? Now, obviously, you should wait for about, I would say, sometimes also between 4 to I mean, actually, you can use it right away if you keep the oil warm for a day. But and I would suggest usually keep it for a week, 2, 4, sometimes 6 weeks. It's absolutely fine. Don't worry. And sometimes I feel as longer you keep it, the better, but not too long. And what I found is when I say keep it, that people get so excited, then they forget about that they made this medicine, and they just leave it over there and just it stays there forever. No, you want to make sure that it's visible, so that way you know, oh, I made this oil, can I use it, how I use it. So I usually put this near you in the kitchen, so that when you pass, I would like to try soon my medicine, because when you're really hiding the oil, then you forget about this. It's obviously different than from what Sarah said. Tinctures, they love darkness. They like to infuse their power into the dark. The oils are absolutely different. So this is basically what it is. And now how and what should we do with this oil? That's very important. Now, so many uses. First of all, you can use this in the culinary. What you can do is you can take this infusion and add some fresh garlic, crushed garlic, and some cayenne, and apply this over the bread and make croutons, right? You can also do, there's like 100 ideas you can use in the food. This is the whole idea, incorporating stuff that you prepare into your daily life. So you can basically do that. Another thing, you can make a salad infusion, salad dressings. So you can add garlic, you can add cayenne the same way, and just pour it over the salad. Now more into medicinal ways. You can use this as a stimulator to recreate and bring oxygen toward the hair and helping you to regrow the hair. This is absolutely incredible, and I love to work with oils. Now, some people scalp are okay with oil, and some scalp, they don't like oil because they have too much of the oil. So obviously be aware. I don't want you to go blindly. Oh, Hava said, then we should all go and do it. No, I want you to really feel it. But the idea is that you just take a very small amount, like just a tiny amount. And I spoke actually with a couple hairdressers, how they call hair.
Yeah.
Yes, and they told me some people do this mistake. They just put so much oil inside and they're rubbing. That's not a good idea. You just need a tiny drop of this rosemary infused oil, and then you just gently massage it, the front, the back, and you cover the whole entire area. If you feel like your head becomes too oily, this is not the right way using. But at least once a week, you can definitely use it, and then wash it off. And now you can also wash it out with the tea that right now Sara prepared for us. So basically you have a rosemary from both ways, going internally, going in, and also by washing it off and stimulating the roots of the hair. So that's another way. Another wonderful way to use this oil is that you can also play around. And let's say you have a headache and you just need this, or you are coming, you have a test that's coming, what to do? So you remember that you have on the counter your amazing rosemary oil. So you take a few drops and you just massage it. You massage your head, you massage it to your front, and then you go to the back and you're doing as a massage. And what will happen? Your concentration will get better. You will be more focused. And it's also wonderful. It's a reliever for the headache, because rosemary is famous by relieving headaches. Okay, so here we go. That's what we can use. And also, like, why not to use as a massage oil and just rub it all over your body? I have an idea. You can rub on your breast. I don't know if the breast will grow bigger, but but why not to try? I know you never know.
You're so quirky. I love it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so that's one way. It's an oil infusion. Now
But you should strain it as well after the.
Obviously, after a couple, let's say, week or 2 weeks, you basically can strain the oil and just use it. And as always, everyone said, you want to make sure that you label it, because if you don't label it, you're gonna say, what is this? And you might fry your pancakes with it. So they will taste like a rosemary, but I don't think it's a good idea anyway. So basically, yes. So obviously strain it, and then you and label it. Okay, so that's one way. Now, I also would like to give you a suggestion before we finishing with all the oil issue here. You can also play around with this infusion, meaning that you can add more stuff into it. Like you can add a black seed oil into it, which is also known as antibacterial, antifungal, also helps. Then you can add a little bit castor oil into it. You can also take a castor oil and infuse it in rosemary. Though I found the castor oil rubbing on the skin is a little bit harder because it's a kind of hard working oil. So it's not
Very
so
thick.
easy.
Yeah.
So I usually suggest whenever people say, oh, I want to use castor, say combine them with another oils and it will be much easier. And then you can also add extra power into it and using essential oil of the rosemary. So that way it becomes a very powerful and strong formula. Sometimes I also suggest to add minerals into it, like you can add iodine, you can add magnesium into it. And what you do is now is not just becomes a simple oil, which is a rosemary oil, by itself very medicinal, but now we can add more nutrients, more minerals that can attack from different ways. So here we go. That's the suggestion. Okay, another thing we can do is we can make an salt scrub with a rosemary, or we can make a rosemary as a culinary, right? So we can basically take a little bit salt, and in this case, usually preferred to use rosemary, which is a dry and not fresh, okay? But now we have what we have, and I do have rosemary fresh, so I'm just going to show you how to use it. So basically, you can make a salt to use in a culinary, and you can make a salt as a food soak. So very simple. In the culinary use, that's all what you need to do is take a little bit salt and take a little bit the rosemary, and you really crush the rosemary and combine them with the salt, and then you let it sit. And what will happen is that with the time, the rosemary will infuse its unique flavor into the salt. And whenever you pour this on your food, it will have a delicious aroma of rosemary. Now, and let me show you how to make a salt scrub or salt that you can soak your feet in it. As we know, Sara loves very much to using a salt in soaking the feet or soaking the body. So this is how you
What
use
kind of
it.
salt did you use?
Okay, so I love combination of different salts. So here it's actually a little bit Celtic salt, a little bit Himalayan salt, a little bit French salt. So I like combinations, so that way I know like I have. But basically, it's I usually want to make you want to buy salt from the companies that are not too big. I always look for the companies that have a small how I would say a
Farms?
small name before they really get famous, because once they get famous and go into the market, then they need to follow a different regularities, and then you never know what happens with them. Okay, so that's the salt that I use. It's combination, and why not, you can try as well. So basically what you can do is you can take the salt and you add rosemary again into it. So about, I would say, a tablespoon, if or more of the salt. Depends on what you want to use it. If you want to use it as a scrub or you want to use it as a food soak, you can even use more. And then what you can do is you can actually add a little bit oil, not too much, but just a little bit. Okay, you just want to add a little bit salt, so that way into the salt you want to add a little bit olive oil. And what will happen is that the salt shouldn't be too oily, but should be a little bit wet. And what will happen is that it's actually so easy to work with it. And then you're gonna pour this salt into the bath. Now you can add into it Epsom salt if you want. You can add into it magnesium flakes if you want. You can add borax if you want. There's like endless things you can add into it. You can also obviously do this as a face scrub, but a face scrub usually likes more sugar than the salt. And basically what it becomes a salt infusion, like salty deliciousness.
How long do you let this sit?
You don't really have too much to sit. You can use it immediately. And also if you want to use it immediately, I would suggest to use you process it through the food processor. When you process it through food processor, then it even becomes more easier and absorbable, you know. And I do like to process almost everything in the food processor, even if we work with garlic or we work with any herb, because that actually gets more faster infused into the in what we are trying to infuse it. So that's basically what it is. It looks so amazing, and it's smells so good. It's absolutely incredible. Now obviously you can, as I said before, you can add also stuff into it. So I would, let's say, add a little bit concentration of a magnesium oil, so you can add some magnesium into it, right, into the salt. So a few drops of a magnesium. It's absolutely incredible. Shake it and it's ready to go. And
So
I
this I
would
would pour into like a foot bath. Like I could just pour
exactly. So
that
what you
into the
want to
foot
do
bath.
is, if you it depends on what you're trying to treat. Obviously, if you want to soak the whole entire body, you will need a huge jar. I would say like about maybe 3/4 cup of the jar for the bath. But if you use it as a food soak, all what you need probably about tablespoon of this infusion, and you just pour it and put hot water and let the magic begin. Soak your feet, and it will be absolutely incredible. And it helps to bring circulation in. And as you know, I love absolutely playing with the hot and cold, and it's helpful so much. It can also be done as a sit bath. You know, you can really put a hot water and then just sit over and let the steam to come up to your area, and it's absolutely incredible as well. So there's many ways you can use it. And I also would like to show you, this is the rosemary essential oils. So besides using the oil as in rosemary as in a plant, in the form of in a form like this, you can basically play around with not with dry, but you can also use an essential oils. Now essential oils are much more stronger, so I usually suggest, if you're working with essential oils, you need to kind of mix them with some other carrier oils, so that way they not burn your skin. Let's say some people, they do mistake and they use the oregano oil and they put straight in their mouth, which is causing burning sensation and can actually cause damage into your stomach. That's not a good idea. You always want to combine essential oils with other carrier oils. So I would use a rosemary oil. So let's say, Hava, I don't have time to prepare the salt and I don't have time to do this. Okay, so then you take a little bit of rosemary essential oils, just a small amount, just a tiny drop. I didn't bring my dropper here, but basically you take a very small amount of rosemary essential oil, and then you take a little bit carrier oil. In this case, we're going to use a little bit of olive oil, and we combine them on our palm of our hand. We're mixing them together, and now we can do what we want. We can either rub this on our scalp, we can rub this on our body, we can create massage, we can inhale it, we can also use this in many ways. Especially it's very helpful to use when people have a fungi. And I think a few classes ago, Sara spoke about the woman who had the fungi on her feet, and because the blood was not moving, so she suggested to actually remove the shoes and let your feet to breathe. One of the good ways to use it is some essential oil, an olive oil or any other carrier oil, and just applying over your feet. And what you do is you're creating circulation, and
With
then
specifically the rosemary herb.
yes, rosemary, because rosemary helps really to bring in circulation, and that's what we want, right?
So someone with a thyroid issue could also rub this mixture.
You take and then you're massaging. Many people are afraid to touch, and I always say, don't be afraid. You should try. And you know, there is beauty of it, that there is no harm to it. When we use our hands, and as Sarah said before, use our hands. That's all what you need. It's amazing because we have the hands and we can use it and we can feel it. Okay.
Right.
So that's it basically. So that's what I wanted to show you for today. I mean, there's many other ways, but this is the basic. So you basically can make the salts, you learn how to make teas, you learn how to make herbal infusions. It's absolutely incredible. Now let me move the chair back. Unless
It
you
is
have any
incredible.
questions.
No, no, I think it's great. I think a lot of people shouldn't be scared of the terms that we use, and if people have questions, we're always here to answer, and you can send us out emails or reach out to our beautiful healers on their websites, and they'll be more than happy to answer these questions. You can also follow them on their social media accounts, where they do dive in a little bit deeper on these topics or show you things on how to make certain stuff. I think we should do also a poultice. Maybe not today because we ran out of time, but I do want people to understand what is a poultice. When we talk about poultice, I know that Sarah had discussed it before with like a mustard poultice, meaning just an herb mixed with water, created into a paste and applied. But I think it's always great to show these things because tincture sounds intimidating until you understand it's just really an herb that's submerged totally in alcohol and infused for a long time. There's nothing scary about it. And again, there's nothing scary about trying these things, and don't get discouraged if after a few days you don't see results, because it's natural healing. Nothing comes after a few days. You always want to try something for at least a week or two and then see if it's not working or if it's too much on your body or if it's too little. Either increase the dosage, decrease the dosage, or stop it altogether. Right, ladies? Am I on cue with
Yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think dosage is probably the hardest thing to discuss because it really depends on
the
the
person.
person, the age, the size, the condition, the
Right.
formulation. And so when people buy tinctures in the health food store, they could say anywhere up to 2 to 30 drops, 2 to 4 times a day. I mean, and
Right.
that's why the dosages are hard to
To
pinpoint.
really get, and that's why you should listen to your body, so that if you see that, okay, I have thyroidism, and I'm taking this tea, I'm drinking, at least a quart a day, and it's lowered my levels immensely after 2 weeks, maybe reduce that amount, right? Um, or medication if you're still on it. Obviously, we don't want people who are taking medication and going on starting herbal treatments to stop medication just because they're starting herbal treatments. You should always consult with your practitioner and a healer or an herbalist that you are working with, so that they can work with you on gradually lowering your dosage and then eventually getting off of it completely if that's possible, because that's always a goal. Um, once you train your body into learning how to do things on its own again. Um, and we're here for that journey, and we want to encourage everybody that wants to go on that journey, and especially if they do, to reach out to our healers that we have here today to get some more guidance, because this is what they specialize in. Their clients come to them for specifically for either lowering medications, dosages, or just lifestyle changes, and that's what it is. But it starts with just making that one cup of tea and continuing with it. And so we don't want you to get discouraged. Make that tincture, keep it there. It can last for tinctures. I didn't ask you both
Forever.
this. Yeah,
At
yeah,
least 10
exactly.
years. Yeah.
Exactly. So I wanted to clarify that if you make a tincture and you didn't use it within that first year, and you're doing a pantry clean out next spring and you see your tincture, don't throw it away because it's still
Yeah.
useful. With oils, how long does that last? It doesn't last that long,
A
right?
year, a year.
A year.
What do
Yeah.
you say, Hava? I say
I,
infused oils a year.
yeah.
Yeah, I would say also about a year, and also depends where they kept it. If they kept it in a warm area, and also depends if they would stick their hands into it. So usually it will lose the color and will lose its power.
Potency. Yeah.
And I
And,
find
and
that,
glycerides.
you showed the two different infusion methods for oil. And I would say just from experience, the sun infusion, which is a lovely way to make oil, by the way, I think they tend to go bad quicker just because they've been in the sun.
Right.
Right.
That's just my experience, but
And then
Yeah.
for glycerides, best kept in the refrigerator, no? Once done infusing.
What the
they don't
glycerin?
have to be, but
Right.
yeah.
I also find them to be tastier, FYI, people, once they're really cold.
Yeah. They're just not as strong, but
They're not as strong, yeah.
they're
But
still good. Yeah.
Actually,
I
I want to add into it that the rosemary tincture can be like all the tinctures as well, can be applied on the skin as well. So it's not only by taking
Right.
by mouth, you can also apply it straight over your skin. So let's say if that's what you have, and you have a rosemary tincture and you want to treat like sort of fungi or something, or you want to quickly combine, let's say on as the hair wash, whatever, you can use the tincture. And what's good about tincture, because they're on the base of alcohol, they will just go straight into it. Because the oil actually it has like some sort of a time till it blends beautifully into the skin. So if you want to treat something quickly, I would suggest using the tincture. So don't be afraid to try. Yeah. So
So if
tinctures
I'm
can be
treating
used in a
thyroid,
variety of
let's
ways.
say I could take the tincture, put a few droppers in my hand,
And then
and then rub
definitely,
into.
yes.
Okay.
Your thyroid.
Oh, yeah.
You could put it
Okay.
right on your thyroid.
Oh,
Right
and
on
let's say
there.
you don't have a salt with rosemary, and now you've heard about that, and now but you have a rosemary tincture, let's say. So what you can do, or I don't know so much with the glyceride though, but you definitely can just put a nice tub with hot water and put few drops of the tincture inside and soak your feet,
And
and
then you
that
can
should be
always add something like magnesium flakes, like you said, if you want to
obviously.
really
Yeah, I like to
boost it.
add and play all around, but I don't want to
Right.
confuse people, so that's why we kind of kept it. But
Yeah,
the
once
idea
you've
was
mastered that one herb,
exactly.
then you start playing around with it. So if you're doing it
Exactly.
on your own with the knowledge that you're receiving from us today, start with one herb at a time. And throughout, we have mentioned plenty of herbs, um, alone and what they're used for. For example, one of Hava's favorites is cayenne. And she has mentioned plenty of time cayenne oil, cayenne tincture, cayenne tea. So these are how you prepare those things. And then you can later on, once you understand, they both promote circulation, right? Why not combine the two? Even if you have two separate tinctures, combine them and use them in order to get better results.
Yes.
So that's what we want all of our viewers to really get out of this, that you start with one thing, add another once you feel confident that you have the knowledge about both plants, and then do your research on more plants. And if you need help with that research, you can always reach out to our lovely ladies here and get all of that information and join more of our courses and classes that they either do separately or in the future will be doing together. They have aside from this, Sarah and Hava have gone together on social media quite a few times and done a live videos.
We're
And
planning to do tomorrow
Tomorrow
one.
morning.
there you
Well,
go. And tomorrow morning they're doing another one. So
well,
that's
my
what's really great.
afternoon, but your morning.
Yeah.
Well, and what's great about live recordings is that they still get put onto your account, so you can watch it later on. And we really want everybody to continue gaining this knowledge from you ladies, and I thank you both for your time today.
Thank you.
Next time we'll be talking about a lot of more interesting topics. We hope to see you all on our next episode of Heal Yourself Naturally. May you all have a blessed, beautiful day.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.